all of a sudden, all of their moves make sense. In the cross-cultural study, what they found was if people had the opportunity to create a tax policy that made the poor's lives better, but also helped the wealthy, they won't vote for it. Not as much as they'll vote for something that makes the life of the poor worse, but punishes the wealthy. Across cultures, the thing that people will actually vote for is the thing that hurts the rich. They won't vote for the thing that helps the poor. And so helping the poor would be let the free market stop putting so many regulations on housing and let people go in and build new apartments, build new buildings, and charge whatever rent they can get away with charging.
He's going to dig into that a little bit more, but if you take that point and kind of like break it down a little bit, that is something that is it's kind of been pervasive in all cultures, across all cultures, is that the not liking of the rich, and I think that is a product of that. It's not what this country was about before. Before we used to aspire to do that. Before we used to venerate, I forget how you say the word, but put those people up on a pedestal, especially if you knew that those people really grinded it out, right? I mean, if you inherit a bunch of money, who really cares? You know, I'm not going to look down upon that. However, that doesn't go to say that if we know for a fact that you had whatever amount of money and you amassed a massive fortune and you worked your ass off and you did what you had to do and you were able to, you know, become a billionaire, become a multi-millionaire. That's something that I still think is fantastic. That's not what I'm about. That's not you know, that's not, those are not my goals in life. But if that is your goal, that's pretty cool. And that's something that in our society and a lot of other societies has been demonized. The socialist, communist, Marxist thinking that what people don't understand is these millionaires, billionaires, and whatever, they are amassing a larger pie, right? Before Amazon, there was no Amazon. So none of those people that currently work at Amazon, the tens of thousands of people, had any piece of any pie. Bezos created this massive pie that people can cut a small slice from. It may be a very small slice, and you may not be happy with that. That's neither here nor there. The fact still remains that prior to him, that pie didn't exist. Right? The pie that is Apple, the pie that is Microsoft. You take any of these massive, massive corporations, and they are a big pie that people can get a piece of. But what we are culturally going through right now is a notion that they're bad, that they're greedy. They probably are greedy. Like how are you going to do that? And if you didn't have that greed, and of course, you know, nobody else is greedy. Only the billionaires are greedy. I'm pretty sure everyone, no one's just going to give everything that they have away, or at least you shouldn't. You have friends and families you have to take care of. You have to take care of yourself. You have to be a responsible person. But the notion that these people are bad is, you know, the corporations, when in my opinion, when levying the weight of the government against the masses and trying to carve out things for themselves, I think that's wrong. I think that might be on the verge of being evil. Crony capitalism is evil. Right? You're subverting the natural free market system. But those people that had a vision and were able to accomplish it, that's the beauty about this country, is that you can do that. You can literally have nothing and make everything.
Now, putting some restrictions on it, like we're not going to let foreign investors buy property. Okay, I get that. With every additional property that a person buys, just charge them bigger and bigger taxes. If somebody wants to buy the third property and you're charging them 50% tax, okay, well, that's on them. Let them do their thing. Very simple things like that would, over, let's say, the next 5 years, make housing very, very simple.
I don't think that's necessarily a fault of the policy as opposed to a fault of the person.
Of course it's a fault of the policy.
I feel like we should be more mad at the arsonist and not mad at the person whose rents are lower.
You should be mad at the arsonist because it's illegal. Okay. You should also recognize that the government put them in that position. And I would bet dollars to donuts if I described a scenario where, let's say that your mom had bought a house. Her whole life was like, when I get to 65, I'm going to retire. I'm going to move to a really small apartment near my son. I'm counting on the rent that I'm going to be able to get from that house. And my upkeep on the house with property taxes and maintenance and all of that, let's say, is $1,700 a month. And then the government comes along and says, you can't charge more than $1,500 a month for that apartment. Now your mom's like, hold on a second. Now I'm losing.
And the example he's giving is not outrageous. so you have to realize this is what happens en masse. This is what happens on rent stabilization. Rent stabilization throughout the city is a massive, massive problem. I know personally people that live in rent stabilized apartments for so long that the owner of the building paid for them to leave. And I'm talking about paid, almost $100,000 in one instance for a person to vacate the apartment because of how much money this person was losing on his own property. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that you have a building and the tenant in whatever, in 2J or whatever, 2F has been living there for 40 years. And because of how low the rent stabilization threshold is, like you could only increase it 1 percentage point per year, or sometimes 2, sometimes 3. Because of that, they're living in an apartment that you should be charging $4,000 for, and they're living there for like $600. And you're just hemorrhaging money. Like, what's the incentive then for somebody else to buy that building? What's the incentive then for somebody else to build a building, knowing full well that the return on investment, you may never get it, because you can only increase but so much for so long. And so once you, especially now with the inflation, once inflation was high, you had inflation at 6%. These guys, sometimes they would do a rent freeze where they couldn't even raise it 1 point. 1 point. If your rent's $1,000, the most the landlord could increase the rent was $10. I mean, that's just insanity. It's your property, and they're telling you what you can and cannot do with it. And that's why you have a housing crisis. That's why the rents are so high, because in the event that you do build a building, you got to pump those rents up all the way, and people that can afford it, they're going to afford it, and the rest are not, because that's you're artificially screwing with the market.
Money every month with no hope of ever making.
Or you can sell the building.
Who's going to buy the building when I say you can't make money? You will lose money. And so now your mom is like, no one's going to buy this. So you just tank the value of my real estate, because anybody even considering buying this building is going to ask, can I make money off of maintaining it, off of the property taxes? And
as somebody who grew up in the Bronx, you saw that in the 1970s and 80s, like landlords were just burning their properties down because of this exact very point. I mean, when the Bronx is burning, you can look it up. It was a real thing. Like, you had swaths of the Bronx that looked like it got hit by an atomic bomb, because they would just burn their entire buildings down.
And if the answer is no, she's left holding a building that she literally can't sell. That's what happens. And now, you remember, this is your mom who for 30 years paid into this building with a plan for how she was going to retire. And then somebody says you can't charge what the market is willing to pay. And now your mom's entire plan for the rest of her life is just over. She can't sell the building. And now she's looking at it going, I have to get the money out of that. Otherwise, I'm going to be working until the day that I die. And this is where people get put into desperate situations. Now, I'm not saying that your mom is a good person if she burns the building down, but I am saying I get why one day late at night, she's like, well, that is an option.
Housing, I think, is a different bucket here. Even the grocery store thing, I can kind of take that point and see is at a different bucket.
So the way to make housing more affordable is to make more housing. You come up with a narrative that we can't build up, which I totally reject wholeheartedly. I'm
just saying, when we build up, especially in New York City, you've never seen a high rise that's more affordable than the unit that even places.
So now your beef is, I don't want there to be places like Beverly Hills that poor people, they just can't afford this neighborhood.
That's all of Manhattan.
Fine.
So you're saying it's fine that they can't afford it?
Yes, of course I'm saying it's fine they can't afford it.
But I thought the problem was housing affordability.
Yes, of course. You don't have a right to live in whatever neighborhood you want to live in. What I'm saying is stop artificially making it impossible for people to live somewhere that the government regulation is making it impossible. For instance, stop freezing rents. Because if building a building in Manhattan was lucrative, then a whole bunch of people would do it. And if a whole bunch of people were doing it and renovating these buildings and knocking them down and building new things with more tenants, it's going to become more affordable. Now, if in doing that, the wealthiest people in America are like, actually, I want to migrate to the city. Yes, it is very possible that, given that is just a fixed, finite piece of land, that the wealthiest people are going to keep pouring in. But my instinct is that isn't going to be true.
It's the number one city in the world, arguably.
Right, but are you trying to regulate who can and can't come there? I don't understand. If you are saying no neighborhood should ever be able to be out of reach of, and I don't know if you'd say anyone, but are you saying every neighborhood should have low income housing?
I have not said that, no.
Perfect. Then now you're just into what you just said a minute ago, which is there will always be a supply and demand problem when Manhattan is of finite size. What I'm saying is the free market is going to lower the prices. It's not going to take them up. regulation is going to take them up. It's not going to lower them. So I'm saying, yeah, it's possible that an area just becomes so desirable for a whole host of reasons. Take the Hollywood Hills, for instance. The Hollywood Hills are always going to be more expensive because they have a view. And there's just always going to be a certain type of person that's going to be willing to pay for that view. So limited amount of hills.
How many additional units we try to build on Hollywood Hills, we are going to reach the upper threshold.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
We ran out of hills.
Right. But I'm saying if you want to lower it as much as you can, then you would deregulate as much as is safe. I'm not saying you take it to zero. And then if you're going to put limitations on it, put limitations of habitation. So I get a regulation that says you can only own a house here if you actually live in it at least 51% of the time or whatever. Now you're going to find out when it is single family ownership, single family dwellings, what becomes the price. And then if that price is just, it's too high, there's so many people that can afford that place and want to live in that place. Well, Manhattan is just more or less off limits for anybody that's making less than whatever, $350,000 a year.
I understand the A to Z of what that laid out, but the end result of that policy would be, this is just how much it is. Either you got it or you don't. It's like you're at the bar. It's at
Dude,
the
that's
club.
always going to be the case.
You got to cover it.
You can't own a house on a minimum wage job. It's just not going to be possible.
Now enter Mamdani, who's saying there are people who are quote unquote residents of New York, who are born in New York, who are now getting priced out of this same thing because the demand is too high, because the prices are rising, because New York is the #1 city in the world, because people are still flooding in. They are getting priced. So what he's saying is, I'm going to artificially hold this amount of units.
It's amazing because the other factor, I don't know if they bring it up here, but the other main factor is immigration, right? I mean, you just think about it. Mamdani's saying that he's going to artificially hold these prices at a certain point, which he can't do. But at the same time, he's totally fine with flooding massive amount of migrants into the city and keeping them here, and not cooperating with ICE to get even the violent guys taken out and deported. So what do you okay, when you flood an area with people, what do those people need? Housing. Like it's econ 101. It's supply and demand. The demand has skyrocketed because of the amount of people. The supply is staying stagnant. So that's going to dramatically increase prices.
It's just so that way I can help.
Guys, if you're still here, all I ask is just hit the subscribe button. That's all. Hit the subscribe button. Does me a lot of good. Small channel trying to grow. Thank you.
Those specific people.
Yep. And if it worked, I'd cheer for it. It doesn't work. It goes the exact opposite direction. It will make a housing crisis. It will make it so that nobody wants to invest in the area.
There's rent controlled units now. There's people who still want to live in New York. New York does not have a vacancy problem. I guess this is the fundamental, this is a values problem. So I think we could talk about housing.
But you have to tell me what the end result is that you want to get to.
Drew personally understands how the economics are working. The reason I'm trying to argue Mamdani's point is because I think a lot of times when we talk about him on the show, it becomes, oh, that's a socialist. And we kind of minimize like what he's trying to do.
Mamdani's policy is full retard. It is so ignorant to how economies work that the very thing I'm screaming for is for people to just follow the math. If you follow the math, you realize if you make it impossible for business to run, then business stops running. Business is how you get affordable homes in anywhere. And he's making that equation. We've run this scenario before, not only here, but all over the world. It doesn't work sometimes. It literally never works.
But we're doing that now, though. And that's the thing that I think when I
literally hear yourself. You're saying, hey, New York is totally fucked. It's totally broken. And we're already running his policy. That's my fucking point, is even now, when you have some small amount of it going on, it hasn't solved shit, because what it does is it tells investors, don't invest here.
That's
Zoran Mamdani is...
That is it. It is. I just found this guy, Tim. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Tom. Sorry, Tom. He's so far pretty good. Pretty good. If you guys want to check him out, let me see if I'm showing the name properly. Oh, I'm not showing the name. There you go. That would be kind of important. There you go. Up right now. There you go. Guy. Pretty cool. Pretty interesting. Seems like a free market guy. I got to take a look at some more of his videos and check him out. If you guys want to give him a check out, he's got some really good videos on Mamdani right now. He's doing really well. But yeah, for the most part, doesn't work. That shit does not work. If you want to, regulate prices, the prices are going to go up. That is, essentially how it goes. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. 6283 Talk on the X. I'm John Soto. See you again in the next video. Take care.